I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Said Connects. Your host, Danny, Cannabis Entrepreneurial Dialogues. Our mission is to create spaces for people of color, brands of color, minorities in the space to be able to educate and empower our communities through storytelling, experiences, and representation in this industry. We're excited about this season. Every episode we've seen, we're in different shops, we're in different locations, and today is no different. We are at Green Label's cultivation facility. We're excited just for the opportunity to be here. We're excited to have Jason, CEO of Green Label, and we're going to learn a little bit more about him. But before we do that, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Said Connects. That's CED Connects. Follow us on Instagram at CED_Connects for all the upcoming episodes that are coming on, especially with this one here. As we mentioned earlier, we're here at Green Label, Green Label's facility, here with Jason McKnight, CEO. Man, what's up, man?
What's good, bro?
Man, thank you for allowing us to be here. How's your day going today?
Oh, beautiful, man. It's been a good day. Started off well.
There you go. How
about you?
I'm good, man. We've been, dropped off the babies at daycare,
We dropped ours off too.
And then from there, get to work, So, just regular life of, business and getting those things going, man.
Yeah. Business and being a dad at the same time.
Business and being a dad, and that's important, man. And we'll get to that too. I know you're a dad as well.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But first and foremost, what we'd really like to learn about is what was your upbringing like, growing up? Where did you grow up, and what was the message behind cannabis in your household?
Okay. Well, first of all, Jason McKnight, like you said, Green Label RX, Green Label here in California, but. To start off as a child, I was around cannabis probably from a young age. My dad, I remember seeing him smoking cannabis. I remember having plants in the backyard in North Hollywood, which was a lot of people. This was back in early 80s, like
early
80s. 81, 82, 83.
Got you.
But after that, I moved to Northern California.
All right.
When I got to Northern California, I ended up in a place called Lake County.
Okay, that's up there.
Yeah, it's up there, bro.
Up there, man. And for those watching, we got a few people watching out of state. California's a fucking huge ass city.
Oh, it's two different states almost.
Right.
Well, it's three states actually.
To put it into perspective, like we're in LA now. Lake County's about 6 hours. It's like if you're on the East Coast, you've already passed 6, 7 different states.
Oh man.
To get across. So Lake County, what was that like? How old were you when you moved to Lake County?
I was 12 years old, so it was a culture shock.
Absolutely, man.
We came from living in the city. My family were from Los Angeles. My mom's side of the family's from Eagle Rock. My dad's side of the family's from Watts. So we're city people for the most part, at least my parents were, and
for sure.
We moved around quite often. We ended up out here in the valley. That's where I was born, and then just moved around throughout Southern California. But when we ended up in Northern California, shit was different, bro. It was country. It was definitely like people don't realize that there's parts of California that are it's really country.
Yeah.
It's not what you think. It's not all LA. It's not all San Francisco. It's not Oakland. There's a lot of wilderness here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of space. California's a big state, like you mentioned.
Right.
For us to get to Lake County, where I grew up in Lakeport, it would take, that's 8.5 hours from here.
Right.
So it's like, well, obviously we're south of Ukiah, Mendocino County. So we're right there, but that is deep.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
For sure. So what would you say was one of the biggest culture shocks for you? Because 12 years old that's an impressionable age for everyone, for all of us, right? Like a lot of we're still figuring ourselves out just as growing up. What was that like for you with that whole environment and culture?
Oh man, we came obviously LA, Dodger fan, Laker fan.
Yeah,
I was a Ram fan at that time already.
Okay,
and this was they were still here.
Yeah,
this was 1989. So LA was crazy at that point. So my family, my mom, we couldn't stay here. So we had to get out of this area. And getting up there, you know, quiet, the peace, like you could be outside at nighttime and you would not see a light or hear a thing. And that first of all, just from the environmental standpoint,
right?
If you're used to hearing stuff, you know, sirens, shit's loud, everything that goes on in LA, whatever it may be, and then getting to a spot where, like, you know, you pull off the side of the road, you go down a road, you know, into a driveway that's off the road, and like literally no one drives past you for hours. And once it gets to like 6 or 7 at night in the winter, once it gets dark, no one's outside.
Yeah,
they all go inside.
And everything closes early.
Everything
closes
7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Like it's literally at 6. If it's on Main Street, it's the only thing that didn't close was the Safeway. That store stayed up 24 hours. So if you wanted any action, you had to go there,
right?
Or you had to hit the Taco Bell, the Jack and Crack.
I learned that the hard way. Yeah, I go up to Ukiah a lot.
Well, Ukiah's the same thing. It's
Ukiah,
30, 45
or even
minutes
further up. Like I would go up in Willits. I go to Willits.
Yeah, bro.
Go to Willits or Laydenville, and
it's the 707.
Yeah.
But people don't, 707, they hear about it with, E40 raps about it being from the 707 from Vallejo. But there's parts of the 707 that are night and day from Vallejo.
Yeah.
And that's the real true, the most of the land that carries that 707 is country. You got lakes, you got a lot of water, you have hunting, you got farmers, you have, people from all walks of life in that area. It's a lot of poor people. What people don't realize is like, there's not a lot of money up there, especially in Lake County. So, you get to Clear Lake. It's one of the roughest areas in the state of California when it comes to just poverty. So, me growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot. We were, we went through a lot as children to just get through the day,
Sure.
And one of the reasons we even ended up there was because the cost of living was so low. And it was something my mom can do. She was a single mother at the time. So it was something she could handle, or she, at least attempt to.
Yeah.
And man, that's the one thing, no matter where you're at or where you're from, when you're poor, you're poor, bro. Waiting to get that next, you just didn't know.
Yeah.
And that was the same struggle that you see in the hood or in the city is the same thing happening up there, just on a smaller scale. You might be in the trailer up there, not in the apartment.
Right.
But it was a change, man. I got to experience things like guns, like actually shooting guns for the purpose of eating something, going hunting and fishing. And there was no way. Like the best thing we ever had was like going to the park and having little bluegill that you wouldn't eat, in the city. But being up there, you have this big lake and you're seeing deer outside your house, and it's crazy. I remember when I first got there, people still had guns on the back of their trucks.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was like a gun rack, and people used to still ride in the back of the truck like it was for fun. Like that's how a whole family would have 10 kids in the back of the truck, and it was just like,
I remember that.
But laws changed shortly after we got there. But at one point when California was still more conservative, I guess, with the gun laws. But Lake County, beautiful place, man. Beautiful place.
So, Lake County, cannabis. How'd you get down here? How did the whole cannabis scene get? How did that intertwine in your life?
Well, it started right when I was ending my year of high school, my last year of high school.
Okay, and that was out in Lake County.
That was in Lake County.
Gotcha.
So I was an athlete. I played sports. That was like that was my draw. That was my thing that got me through a lot of the negative things that were going on around me at that time.
All right.
And one of those things,
what'd you play?
I played quarterback. I played football. I played up in Lake County. We played all sports.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But my thing was football, and that's how eventually when I left Lake County was to go to LA to play football in college. So
you came down on the scholarship?
So I came down here, and originally I played some junior college football up there. But when I got down here, I played some football down here.
Nice.
And I was able to, bring that Northern California flower with me. But But basically, how I got started was I needed money, man. I needed some way to try to make an income. I was on my own. My mom, she was incarcerated while I was in high school. So I became a ward of the court. And as soon as I turned 18, I was on my own. But I was able to graduate and get out of school, but I had to go right away to trying to survive. There was really no other way but to get it myself. I had no one to ask for or anyone to get anything from.
Right.
So I had a friend of mine whose uncle, he was one of those dudes that was out there growing cannabis, getting it. Because Lake County is a place where people have been growing weed for forever.
Yeah,
it's a way of life there, and a lot of the community itself is they've accepted it. They accepted it long before mainstream world has.
Sure.
Up in Lake County, there was people making an income for their families for 20 years. I mean, I'm talking guys that they were contractors and had regular jobs, but they always made sure they had a garden.
Harvest and all that.
Yeah. So, but that was my first time getting into it. Other than being around it,
sure,
people smoking it. It was pretty. That was the thing. Growing up as a kid, kids were smoking weed by the time we were 12, 13. No. When I got there,
I can see that because since it's such a regular
there was
thing. I can see
there was a lot of families that cannabis was totally like they smoked the weed in front of their kids. Like it didn't matter. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like. It wasn't hidden, and even with my family, it doesn't matter where you're from. If poor people generally don't give a fuck about a lot of things like that. So when you're, like part of being poor is sometimes you got bad morals or just a little bit manners. I don't know, but I remember being around a lot of my homies and their parents, their uncles. They were smoking weed, so it's like shit. You were introduced to it.
Yeah.
By the time you were 12 or 13, you don't know whose house you're rolling up on and what they're doing, because in Lake County, it's a small community. So it doesn't matter if you're the richest kid or the poorest kid. I'm going to see you in the middle of town. Like there's nowhere for you to hide. There's no like separation of wealth or anything like that. So you're interacting with the trailer type trash. Like, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of meth, but weed was like not. That was the easy thing. Right. So a lot of kids I know went to selling weed by the time they were 14, 15 years. Selling eighths and doing stuff.
So that's already...
That was already in the program. That mushrooms back then. So it was back then people would sell a lot of mushrooms.
Dang. So okay, so you're already learning this game going, as you're there and you make your way down from college, going to college. What was that experience like? I remember before we even hopped on the show, talked about making runs up in north, back.
That was it, man. As soon as I got here, I brought some Arcata train wreck, and I brought maybe some some big bud at the time. This was 1999, and at that time there wasn't a lot of. You didn't know about the strains that exist now, right? It was more of the old school shit, but even then, Arcata Trainwreck was like exotic.
Yeah.
At that time, that was exotic weed. Yeah. And it was green weed, and it had a good smell to it, and the terps were crazy. And when I got here, I showed a few guys, after realizing there was a shortage of product here, say less. Yeah. It was a quick drive back to Lake County.
Right.
Good 8.5 hours and turned around and came back. But, we started what we called our Prop 215 runs.
There you go.
I got my medical card right away, and then I became a caretaker, a caregiver. And so I made a lot of runs to Lake County. I dealt with people up there that I grew up with. That was the thing. If you're from there, you're from there, Good people. Yeah. Like not very good people up there. A lot of respect.
Yeah.
So it was easy to do business if you were there, and it was just a quality product. And that's what got me started.
Yeah.
And then I came across OG Kush.
And that changed your life?
That changed everything. I decided I wasn't going back to Lake County. But yeah, so we got on to a transition from obviously doing what we were doing. And, it was a great survival technique at the time as well. Like I try to keep it transparent, and for me, cannabis was at that time, I wasn't into cannabis, smoking it on any crazy level, because I had a lot. I couldn't afford it. when I say poor, like I was already programmed in my mind, like, bro, I ain't spending no money on no weed. I got to figure out what I'm going to eat.
Right.
You know, and I learned from my family having their addiction issues and having their issues, like, bro, you can't do that. Like, you got to put that to the side. But once I realized the economic opportunity, and then at the time it was 1996, so they had just legalized cannabis. Yeah. That was Prop 215 the first time. So I was already on the mindset back then, like, man, this is a future. This is it. How do we do this? How do I get this done legally? And when I got here, it kind of springboarded me into that, you know, more of a businessman, more of someone that was trying to set something up. And it just gradually grew into, you know, I graduated college by sustaining.
Congrats.
You know what I mean? I was blessed to get through that. Football, obviously, you know, that's only for the few can make it further than college, but it was an opportunity.
Was that like an aspiring goal of yours as well?
Well, you know, for me, I love sports. You know, for me as a kid, it was a way for me to get away from whatever was negative, because I had some skill set. You know, I wasn't the best or the biggest or strongest or fastest, but I had a lot of heart and I had some skill. So in Lake County, I was good. You know, in Lake County, I was a good player. So, and there's a lot of good players. Like, I went to school, in my school, there's guys that made it to the NFL from my generation.
Right. What college did you go to?
I went to Mendocino College, which is up there, and then I ended up graduating from CSUN.
Oh shit!
So that's how I got to the Valley.
Nice.
And
so you played before they had the team.
Well, they had a team when I got there. They had a team
when you got there.
So they dropped the team when I was there. So that was the next phase of like football. Just like they had an earthquake, and when I got there, it wasn't really.
You were in college when that earthquake.
No, I was not.
Got you.
They had the earthquake in '94.
'94,
but
I remember that shit.
They never were able to repair anything or fix anything. Like, we're talking, it took them 10, 15 years. And during that time, you know, CSUN, we didn't have a good turnout. It was not a good situation for the athlete involved. We had trailers. We had all these different things that was the original thing. That was like, man, this place is the worst in terms of just
playing conditions.
The field was horrible. Yeah. They just didn't have any money, and if they did, it was all being put into infrastructure for building back from the earthquake.
Right.
So when they realized that there was no economic value there to have a football team, and it was just like $1 million a year in cost to the school, they chose to walk away from football and then sell the land that the stadium was on. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, you know, they were able to collect some revenue for the school, positive revenue.
Right.
Excuse me. And, you know, everyone that was there trying to have a career in football, or they either moved on or they retired. Yeah. And for me, it was, I'd pretty much retired even before it got to that point. I had an injury, and football wasn't it. I was once I realized I could make money, you know,
right,
the way I was doing it, I couldn't, you know, getting up and going to lift weights at 6 a.m. and put all that time in. It's one thing if you had some resources behind you, but I didn't have any. So like, I had to get it the way I could in order to try to strive for a better life. And I made up my mind. I could sell these little blue bags for, you know, this and that, and all. This is easy money. This is a good life. I'm enjoying myself, having a good time. And then it just took off from there.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. So after college, you got business. Sounds like business is booming. You got a few things going on for yourself. When did Green Label then start to emerge as like this viable business model? And how did that transition with your life and your family?
So for me at the time, I was a young bachelor. So family wise, I didn't have anyone to be responsible for. I had siblings, and I had my mom. She came home, and at that time I provided her a home. Right. I got her a place to live and set her up, and then I was off on my own. I left her back in Lake County, and I had no one to answer to, so it was easy.
Right.
I was gonna get the money.
Yeah.
I was going to do what I had to do. And then through that process, I realized, man, there's more value in me growing some weed myself. Because at that time, a pound of OG Kush was $7,200. So that's where everything changed. That's where the whole dynamics of whether or not I should be driving to Lake County to go get outdoor, or should I try to focus on doing this indoor project with this OG Kush.
Right.
That's
and had you have grown before that, this idea?
Well, the ideal of OG Kush, yes, I grew other strains prior to that. So
Okay.
I started growing while I was in college. And I actually, my first little opportunity to grow was in Granada Hills. And, you know, I won't say too much more, but
there you go.
I was able to get my wings really wet, and then I went back up to Lake County and I helped out a little bit up there, and that's I learned a lot about growing outside, and then I met some guys out here that were from the original OG crew out here in Chatsworth, and I got plugged in because that's how it works, right? You know people, or it's who you know and the relationships you have.
Right.
So I got plugged in with some high-end guys that were on that OG thing, and I was able to get blessed with the cut and put on in the sense of just how do we grow this OG the correct way, and that was early. So that was like a 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And that's when you only needed 4 lights. You didn't need more. You didn't need 20 lights. You didn't need 100 lights. You didn't need that. You just needed 4 lights.
Now, when you say lights, what is that like? You're talking about like general lights? Like
Yeah,
lights?
you know, back then it was all based off of how many pounds you get a light.
Okay.
And the way it was, the reason why it was a light is because people didn't grow on indoor cannabis on a large scale. Everything was a micro grow. Everything was like my bedroom in the back, my shed in the back. Maybe my garage was if you hit the garage, you were moving up. You were going for it. You were doing 8 to 12 lights. That was like, those were the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Those were the dudes that were like, they were risking it all, because back then, even though Prop 215 was established, you know, LA County Sheriff, LAPD, they didn't have to follow no rules, because they could care less. The way it works is if you get arrested, you got to explain yourself to the judge regardless of whether or not you had a wreck or you had a license from one of these cities or whatever. You had to answer, and in the meantime you were losing money, and they would just so it was risk. People still went to jail, you know what I mean, like because some of the courts didn't care, you know, this was
depending on the county, depending on
situation,
where you got,
they just didn't care, you know,
where you got
they you know, they'll find you guilty for something else in the meantime, but
yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's the other thing. You get pulled over for something, and as long as if you got other priors or you got other things you're wanted for, absolutely,
it's a wrap. But we definitely got that 4-banger going. Shout out to the homies over there on Schoenborn Hustlers. You know, that was how we got put on really hard and going crazy with. We had 3 houses on Schoenborn Street at one point, and that's when we took it to the next level, man.
That's wild. So from that, you're building these networks, you're building these connections. You got your spots on Shelbourne. Now talk to me about the from 215 and the changes that happen going on to like continue to keep building.
Man,
you got your licenses. Like what was that like?
Well, the license process was insane, right?
Yeah.
It started with us when I met my wife. She was just my girl at that time. Okay. And we started dating, and this was I had started trying to figure it out in 2006, because that's when people in the city of LA were kind of like, that was that first, okay, you can actually open up a dispensary. We can do this. There's a way to do it legally with paperwork.
Right.
The thing was, no one would give you that paperwork. No one would tell you how to do it. It was kind of like this mystical, like, oh my God, you know how to do that? It's worth $100,000. If everything was based off money. If you wanted the clone, if you wanted OG Kush, the first wave of OG Kush being sold to people wanted $10,000 for a clone.
Right.
And
when you say clone, for folks that are watching, when you say clone, you're talking about the clone of the plant.
Yeah, a single plant, a single seedling or a single clipping. And because the value in OG was so high that the more you gave it to people, the more it became watered down. And, so everything about that time was just, nobody wanted to share anything. Nobody wanted to tell you how to get.
It still feels like it like that now.
It is.
There's a lot of gatekeeping.
There's definitely gatekeeping now, but to be honest with you, that gate got broken down. Now it's kind of an imaginary false gate.
Okay.
You don't know who's telling you what they're telling you.
Okay.
People, in this game right now, you don't believe who you want to believe. Everyone's an expert.
Right. In the social media age, everyone becomes.
Man, listen, if I can get in front of you right now, I'm famous. And I know more than you regardless, because I've had enough of these conversations with people. But yeah, bro, like it was hard. We didn't get it. The first time I got into a shop and we started working, I got into a shop with another couple of guys, two brothers. We got going. We got raided by the Devonshire district, which was right off Roscoe and Reseda area. They came, it's done. You guys got to shut down. And that was 2006, 2007. And then I went and said, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. I tried and tried and tried. We applied. We got into what they considered, we got issued a license. But then they said, we're going to revoke all these licenses. Because when I got my first license, I walked into the building over here in Van Nuys with my wife, and we just got a permit and asked for a seller's permit, and kind of like basically didn't tell them we were going to sell weed, but gave them the LLC that we could everything. And the lady was like, "Oh, cool, $25, boom, boom." Sure. So we had a business license, a seller's permit. We had everything that when you looked at the bylaws, or you looked at what the Prop 215 stated.
Right.
This is all you had to do.
Yeah, it was your interpretation of what it stated on the paperwork.
And the way everyone did that, they created their 501(c)(3)s.
Yeah.
And then you created a situation where it was a nonprofit, but you can then pay yourself for your job, your role, your time, your expenses. And that's where it became the business that it became. And, we tried. We were finally able to get a license officially after 3 or 4 years of just going for it. We kind of originally Green Label didn't really become the brand until 2007. That's where we were like, okay, the paperwork is going in. We're trying to make Green Label.
Yeah.
At the time, the reason why I even went with Green Label is because I used to drink Blue Label. Okay. And I had some good friends of mine, and we were this was like 2002, 2003. They had a bottle of Blue Label, and I was like, man, we need to call a weed brand Green Label. And I ran with it, and as soon as I could, and obviously that's that Green Label, that's kind of like just green in general. That's the beginning phase of branding, right? A lot of the beginning phase of a brand started with the very it's green, but we're not going to tell you it's weed. But the green is kind of leading to that, So, but it was like that first level of marketing, and we went with the Green Label. We got a license in Rancho Mirage, of all places.
Okay.
We actually received one, and that was a crazy ordeal. That was like, we get a call from a friend. Oh, I heard they're giving out licensing in Rancho Mirage for delivery license. Okay, great. Me and my wife, we drive down there. We just happened to get to the building at the time that the lady that was in charge was actually there. Okay. Man, we walk in, the lady's like, you guys look like a lovely couple. I'm going to give you an opportunity to make some money. Nice. And this is after, it was just, that's how I interpret it. Those are the words.
Universe, like this is meant to happen.
Bro, we were on cloud nine. I can't, when that happened, I thought I just won the lottery.
Right.
Like it was the most amazing feeling, because we'd fought for, at that point, it had been 7 years of us grinding it out, making sure we didn't get caught growing weed at houses and doing all the shit you have to do to survive in the cannabis space. Like, during that time, the economy collapsed. And when the economy had collapsed, that's when all the weed game went south, because everyone had to survive. Everyone was like, oh, I'm just going to grow weed like Tommy and Joe down the street, and I'm going to sell my pounds for cheaper. And I just, and then eventually, greed and survival, which they kind of, if you have the two, it's like together, it's dangerous.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the pounds just started going down. Like OG went from 72 to, 60, 68, 64, and then it was like 62, then it was 6, then all of a sudden it was like 58, then all of a sudden 56, and then finally it got to 48. It held for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, boom, now, $2,500.
You're throwing these numbers out, and for context, like what did it take to, what did it cost to produce?
Well, at that point, it cost a lot because we didn't have volume. We only had so much space to do this in, right? We all were doing it underneath.
Yeah, you touched on like you could only make so many per light.
Yeah.
What was that figure back then, if you can remember? Like, how much can you do per light?
Back then, when I first started OG Kush, like, I don't care what anyone says, these guys were getting like a pound. We were getting barely anything. There was no skill set. There was not knowledge. There was not a lot of, I went to school and took some courses in plant science and, botany, but I wasn't an educated. I mean, I was not educated at a high level on how to handle propagation and cultivation of a cannabis plant,
Right.
So it was all trial and error. And like I said before, nobody wanted to share shit with you.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want you to win because it became that competitive.
Yeah.
So over time, you had to, you learn techniques through trial and error. A lot of losses to get gains.
Yep.
And if you were able to come across a solid individual that would bless you with knowledge, that was really the cool thing, bro. Like that was the cool part. So a lot of relationships were started through cannabis. A lot of positive, because not everyone thought of it that way, but there were a lot. And it was just not the easiest thing to accomplish. Education. You had it's like, it's like,
sure,
there's certain things in the world where you just got to learn.
Yeah. And low key, that's what this podcast is about, right? Like, this is my opportunity to like pick everyone's brain and like kind of like get some game, get some knowledge to like throw it out there. Like we said from the jump, educate folks and let people that look like us share that knowledge and like at least the experiences behind where you got to where you got to.
Like, that's the truth. At this point, the way the world is taking the plant, now that it's all about money in the sense of corporate America is involved. At this point, we need to empower and educate as many people that are on our level that need to be brought to that one opportunity. So that's a huge push, and we'll go into that as well. But yeah, man. So once I got that license, everything was Gucci. And then a couple years later, sum it all up, I got raided by the LA County Sheriffs. And that was the big change for me. That was where I fought. And
did you do time?
I did. I the case was crazy. I ended up fighting the case for a few years, During the process, when we originally got raided, they took our children from us, and the children went into custody with DCFS, and that took some time for us to get our kids back.
Yeah,
we went through some hurdles, and that was probably the most eye-opening, changing moment of my life. Being someone that was in the space at that time, this was 2015, 16. So at that time, I had already experienced a lot in the cannabis space, bro. I was already in 10 years plus, so I've seen a lot. And I witnessed the laws kind of change and become softer. And I saw a lot of, people get caught for something that I did, something similar to what they try to say I was doing, maybe didn't even have paperwork. And I watched them get fines. I watched them get, a slap on the wrist. It was just very lenient in certain areas.
Right.
But for us, we made the mistake of moving into an area where they didn't really want us to be there. And that's another lesson in life, right?
Right.
You can fight, you can do whatever you want to get out of your circumstances, but when you get to a certain level, another level, people don't really like to see certain people in that area like that. Sure. And when I got in this setup and we went down the way we did, the sheriffs weren't happy. We were able to be up in this nice area growing weed underneath their nose. So there was a lot of like anger.
Right.
And it was some miscommunication. They thought I was doing more than what I was doing. So they came with the hammer, don't grow weed in a community where they don't have crime. because when they do have something goes bad, you're the biggest story in town, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, so we learned that lesson. But during that time, we fought. It took us 11 months to officially get our kids back full custody. We worked very, very hard. Me and my wife, we went through. That was tough.
Absolutely. I could only imagine. I've kind of experienced just something very like on a small scale, but even that, like just getting questioned, like alone is already like scary as a parent to then have to like go through what you went through as a parent, and
there's a lot of guilt for me. There was a lot of guilt. I felt like I let my family down. I misled my wife and my children, and I put them in this situation. But I was blessed to have a strong wife, strong woman by me, and she knew my heart was pure. Like I was really, we were trying to make a better way. Right. And that's another part of this, right? Like us as entrepreneurs now in the cannabis space, us minorities, people of color that have been hurt from the war on drugs. This is our opportunity. And at that time, that was my goal. Like I come from nothing. Yeah. And when I saw there was this opportunity of doing something that no one else had done, that was my main focus. Like this is a chance to change my name. Change the way people view who my family is, and that was big to me. So when they took that from me at that moment, I thought I lost it all. So it was key that I had a good relationship, because if I had a not such a solid woman, it would have been over for me. I would have lost.
I would turned in
this year everything
direction.
I got, it would have been gone.
Yeah,
because I've seen that. You're only as good as your significant other.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a partner. It's hard to do life without someone that really has your back.
Yeah.
Because we're not perfect. We go through ups and downs.
Yeah.
We have to experience life.
Yeah.
But that's it. So I went through that. And during that time, I ended up going to trial. They hit me with some outrageous number of felonies. Obviously, that was because there was more people involved than just myself. I had family members that were participating in cultivation. They had their own houses, and we got in trouble because someone that we were associating with got in trouble, and that individual chose to do what they do,
right, right,
and put us all in jeopardy, and maybe exaggerated a little bit to help himself.
Sure.
And fed that narrative that we were doing more than what we were doing. And when they came hard. Like I said, it was an enormous amount of felonies, like 40 felonies I was charged for at first. And, I went through hell to get through that. And in the end, I went to trial. I was convicted of I beat the cannabis shit. I just lost on the technicality of things that they could charge you for.
Right.
You can, in the state of California, if I take your iPhone and throw it on the ground, that's a felony because that's over $500 in value. So that was what they got me for. I was able to catch almost 9 felonies for each, every location that I had a grow or I was part of a grow. Regardless, they hit me.
Damage in the home.
Yeah.
Got it.
And at that time, it was over because I was looking at 20 years. The judge basically was at 4.5 years, and I did a county lid in LA County.
Oh,
so I did that there, and that was in 2019. So my story is pretty crazy because, I fought from 15, 16 all the way till trial in 18, and had to go. When they got me, my wife had just gave birth to our 4th child, and literally we were in trial when my wife gave birth, and I had to go back into court that following Monday or Tuesday, I think it was, and then go through a week of trial, knowing that my wife just given birth to my baby girl, and not knowing how long I was going to go away. Because, for me, I knew I was done the minute they did the jury selection. Like, I had no peers in my jury. like, I was in Pomona. And the one thing I didn't know, man, I'm not a criminal. You know what I mean? I wasn't out here doing criminal shit. I was actually trying to make a money, doing the things that they said I could do.
Exactly. You had the licensing at the time to be able to produce.
And regardless, you don't go to trial in Pomona. It's like 98% conviction rate. And me being so gung-ho about, like, nah, man, this is bullshit. They're trying to put stuff on me. This ain't it. For me, I got kind of put into like a RICO case, so to speak, because there was so many individuals involved, and they ended up putting me at the top of the pyramid, because
you're the supplier.
Because Green Label was the vision.
Yeah.
That was me. I was doing the high time shows. I was out there letting people know, like, Green Label's coming. We had the delivery. It was a Green Label delivery. There was no brands like some of these brands that you guys think are legacy. They came when they said they could. Some of us came when they said we couldn't. Yeah. And a lot of the people that did that, there's very few of us that are still here. But for me, back to the other part, when I went away, I got sent to county, right? That was crazy because I had never been incarcerated like that before. Spent a couple of days in the pod waiting to get let out, 24 hours, something like that. But to go and have to hit that county supermax because I had so many felonies. It's a point system. Yeah. Even though they're no non-violent, I was up in there with murderers and the worst of the worst. And the gang situation there is crazy. So, I was an older man at that point, so I wasn't a kid. So that was a blessing. That was the truth. Like I walked in there with my head high, but I did that time. And when it was all said and done, at that point, the prison system was pretty full. And we worked the system. I did everything I could, man. I was in every extra class I could be in. I was in every church. I did everything I could to get out the module, bro. Like to get out that module because I didn't want to be. Like I said, I wasn't that guy. So I did everything, and then eventually, before I had to take that ride to prison, I was able to get my lawyer filed a motion to get us back in front of the judge. And the judge was able to basically, listen to all the things that I'd done in that county year. And then said, we're going to give you this because it was bullshit, bro. They were just teaching me a lesson. You know what I mean? Like for what they got me for, and at the end, they got me for lying on a rental application because I didn't disclose my tax returns. So, America, people think this place is what it is, but it's a beautiful place. But when you're in that system, man, they're going to get you. And they'll find every way because there's so many laws that are written specifically to entrap people of poverty, people of color. Like the law that got me was a law that was originally, brought up because they needed to get people to stop tagging the walls here in LA. So they said, listen, we're going to give these people felonies for this if they do anything over $500 worth of damage. Well, if I tag a whole wall, it's going to take at least $500 to clean it, paint it, redo it. Yeah. So it was really an attack on that culture. Sure. And that culture was black and brown. And it's just the trickle down system. So for me to get caught up in it, and obviously being a man of color, my wife, my kids, it was tough. It was an eye-opening experience. Yeah. But it led to this. So while I'm locked up, before I'm going through trial, bro, I'm angry. And I had a lot of anger.
While you're locked up and while you're in trial, are your kids still in? Are they still with the state, or are they already back with your mom?
So the way we did it, salute to my wife, Queen. She went to work. She put it down for the family, bro. She was whatever they needed us to do, whatever they demanded of us, bro. We were there, bro. Like 2 classes a day. In the morning, we'd find driving 2 hours to get to a place that said we could come, just to knock out hours. Right. Like that was my mission. You know, thank God the kids were able to go to a family relative.
Okay.
After a few weeks of them being in the system, but they were 4, 3, and 11 months, bro. They'd never been away from their mama.
That separation in those years too. Like I used to work in preschool, and 0 to 5 are like the most important and critical years in children's lives, and so having that
bro, that was my guilt. That was all I thought about, bro. Like I grew up in the system. My mom was incarcerated a few times as a child. My dad was he was not present after, you know, I was like my dad was gone after I was in the 3rd grade. I didn't see him again until I was a grown man. So with my mom being incarcerated, not having that family backing, we did a lot of surviving.
I could only imagine like all the mental, like just
oh man, I thought
all the thoughts you had, like fuck,
bro. At that time when it happened, I thought I was gonna die, just of like. Of the pressure of like, oh my God, I just did this to my kids, bro.
Yeah. And shit I said I would never do.
Yep.
I just fucking did it.
Did it, bro. And so that's why I was on this angry, like, fuck you to the system.
Sure.
Fuck you to the people that say I can't do this. I'm gonna do it so I can prove it to my kids that this was always the right way. Yeah. This was always what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And now I'm here. You know what I mean? Sure. And I get emotional about it because that is that of anything as a father, that was my biggest letdown, bro.
Like, man,
you know,
I feel you.
And if you've been through it, that's all. Your daddy's what could save you from everything most of the time, you know.
Yeah.
So
straight up,
God's good though. We're here now.
We're here.
But with that being said, going through that with the kids, that just strengthened me. And then when I got to jail, it was just like I had to get out. But before I left, man, they opened up the ability to have the social equity program.
Right.
I filed even though I was going through it. I went and did the paperwork.
Yeah.
And I won. I was able to get a license. And before I even went to trial, I did this because I got arrested at the time and everything worked out. So the system was working in my favor. You know, during that time, I was able to get a space here in Chatsworth. I was able to get I think it's 1,100 square foot room.
Yeah.
And I parked the license on it. And that was it. And then I went to trial and I lost, and I thought I lost that too. And we notified the state, and the state was like, nah, it's cool. You know, you got this license for the crime you're incarcerated for right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, we'll review this in a year or 2 years when the license comes back up. Well, in the meantime, kept my head down, you know, stayed out of trouble, did what I had to do, and I was able to be blessed with the opportunity to leave on time served. And you know, they give you double, triple credit if you do a county year. It's that's worth triples. You know, if you know the county, it's most people are trying to get out of there. They'd rather go to prison. And
I can see that.
But so man, obviously that came with some restitution I had to pay. So it was a deal that we made, and because of the social equity, because of the license that the city of Los Angeles gave me, because of the way the sheriffs treated me, I was able to get an opportunity to get some cannabis money from investors that helped me put myself in a situation where I could pay back restitution. They gave me time served. I got back out. They gave me an additional community service hours I had to do. And I saved myself from having to do 4.5 years. You know, and
I mean, from everything that you've already experienced, like those 4 years were already spent.
I would still, they would already spent. That was the thing. It'd already taken 6 years to get to that point. Right. But I looked back at it yesterday and I was like, bro, I'd still be locked up right now.
Damn.
I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you. If I had to do the whole term, I would still be there right now. I still wouldn't be released for another like 8 months.
Damn.
So time is everything, and you can't get that back. So when you go into life and you get put in that situation in a cage, you really realize how important it is.
Yeah.
But with that story being said, bro, I kind of we ran with it. We started with 1,100 square feet, within 30 days of me being home, I was able to strike a deal with my amazing partners that led me to being able to take control of this entire complex, which is 60,000 square feet.
And it's a huge, and I'm sure that, like, even that production scale, like the experience, like, you're obviously operating. There's a lot of fucking trial and errors that had to have happened.
Well,
in the space,
you know, to be honest, we'd been doing it for a long time, and we kind of had an understanding of what it took. It was the basics. It was just taking the basic things that we'd been doing and then just bigger. So instead of having one guy in the garden, you got to have 9 people working here, you know, like, but the techniques, the day in, day out stuff, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
What was my success to this whole thing? We didn't change. We didn't go with the fads. Like, everyone started saying, oh, you got to do drip system. You got to do salts. You got to do it with these lights or this or that. We just did it with what we knew how to do. It was a double-ended HPS light. When I started, we used to use single HPS lights. We got to the double-ended. We did the Gavita lights, did some trays, and we sat there and counted to 5 on each plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
What? And we did that. And like I said, we were able to get going in about 2019, and we got going here. I got my first room up running. It was 2020, so I'd only been out for 4 months, 5 months. So from 4 months to 5 month range, from being incarcerated to hitting the freedom again, we were able to get the first room running. We got the second room built out, got that going within like 10 days later. And then shortly after that, COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we hit because no one had any weed.
Yeah.
But we had weed. So it was a great time for us to be in that situation.
Absolutely. How many rooms do you guys have here now in the space?
So we have a total of 10 rooms, and it's over 22,000 square foot of canopy.
Damn. So you guys are producing a ton of weight.
Yeah, man. We're producing hundreds of pounds of cannabis weekly.
Yeah.
So we're consistent. That's been what's helped us develop the brand. That's what's helped us make our way through. You know, we do a lot of white labeling for multiple brands. We've been able to just touch that full vertical.
And what are some of the brands that you guys know work with that maybe some of our viewers and listeners may be familiar with?
Oh man, it's quite a few, but we work with Burb. That's a Canadian brand that we work closely with. They're out of Canada, Vancouver, but they wanted to get the brand into California.
Okay.
So we've come together in a partnership with them. So that's one of the brands we work with. We do a lot of collabs with different artists.
Yeah. I saw a few collabs. I know you got a few. You got one with DJ Charisma, Staple of LA, DJ and all that.
Yep.
I know you got a few. I heard one with Shorty?
We do Shorty. We got Xavier Wolf. I'm doing some stuff with a couple of big names. I'm a little hush yet. We got to get to that point. But for the most part, we work closely with some big brands.
Yeah.
And, obviously we don't like to disclose everyone because we make our money white labeling.
Right.
And we sell our products. We do the manufacturing through Mabel. That's the manufacturing part of the company.
Okay.
Over here, this building is the Alternative Research Group. So we're fully vertical. We have the cultivation.
Yeah.
We have the manufacturing. We have the distribution. We have a retail delivery license on the building, and we even have a nursery license here. So we're doing everything, bro. We're doing everything under this roof.
And then you're gonna have a storefront.
Yeah,
soon.
we'll be opening up in Echo Park. So it'll be the first of many Green Label RX stores.
Yeah.
Echo Park, beautiful location. It's going to be amazing. We're excited. It's going to be like that first opportunity to get back into the retail side since everything went down. So we're excited.
I'm sure you're excited. Yep. Now, what's the craziest request or the craziest idea that someone's come into you with on a collab side of things? This is what I want to do, or brands that come in, what's the wildest thing? Because I've experienced a lot from in just a short operating experience that I have, like with my own distribution license, but I can only imagine, like, as a cultivator and like the access to the flower and with the packaging and all that. What's the craziest one?
The craziest thing is just the terms that people try to come up with.
Gotcha.
And
yeah,
when I first started, I was like, I didn't really know. This whole legalization and trying to broker deals and do contracts and all of this was all new to me. But I experienced
everything was handshakes before.
Bro, we lived off the street. It was like, bro, if we're in it, we're in it. Now, bro, you don't know what's coming your way. It's more. It's tough right now. Business is crazy, but the terms that people I've had, there's a lot of hustlers, bro. There's a lot of talkers. There's a lot of movers. There's a lot of people trying to sell something that either exists in their mind, but not yet in actual. I can't touch it. I can't see it.
Right.
But I hear your story. So we get everything, bro. But to be honest with you, people at this point, I haven't had too many crazy requests as of recently. We've established ourselves. When you walk the facility, you'll see it's a beautiful,
absolutely,
it's a beautiful thing.
You walk in and you wouldn't believe that it's a indoor facility or manufacturing facility at all. It looks like a pretty.
It's well put together. Like I was blessed with some good bones, and then we were able to take from that and make it what it is today. But the truth is, when people come in here, they kind of nowadays I don't get too many crazy requests.
There you go.
They understand what time it is for the most part.
Yeah.
This is good business. We're here to do good things and try to grow brands, and obviously now it's all about growing Green Label as well. And that goal is to create a house of brands.
Yeah.
That's the Green Label way. We got multiple SKUs that are coming out. We're working with athletes, artists, entertainers. We're working with people from all walks of life. My main push right now is to really put more into helping the social equity community here in Los Angeles, or throughout the entire state of California and across the country. We want to try to impact as many communities as possible in a positive way. I want to give people who are looking for an opportunity to try to understand how to do this thing the right way, to come and work with us, partner with us. Allow me to grow with you. Let me help you grow, because that's really what it is. We have to be a tribe. Like, we're a bunch of small mom and pop styles trying to come together and compete against corporate America. You got to come together, and that's the thing about the social equity.
And I was going to ask you about that, because I know that up north, social equity is huge, right? Like there's a big push for social equity in brands, in facilities, in the licensing, and you don't really see, or at least I haven't really seen much of that same camaraderie in the social equity side of things in LA as you do up north. What are your thoughts on that? What are your feelings on that? And how do you want to change that?
It's like we talked about earlier. Like even though it's California, it's two different states. It's two different ways of living. It's two different types of people. Northern California is much more in the city where you're talking about social equity. That's going to be, the Oakland, San Francisco area. Very liberal, very much on that. They're going to fight to give back to the people that have been the most affected by it. When you get down to Southern California, there's more money here. There's more influence of different ethnic groups and communities, and the business is different. It's business. The city of LA has done a good job. Trying to make the program as good as possible. Like, we're the whole thing is we're creating it. No, there is no blueprint for this. So this is all something new. I wish the powers that be would listen to us a little bit more and come find us operators. Don't just listen to people that are in there. There's going to be people that come and what do they call those types of people? They're like lobbyists.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those in the social equity world, just so you know. There's very few social equity people that have actually even done this shit. And so that's a battle within itself.
Right.
How do you find the right person to listen to, or who should you be listening to? For me, I would love for the city to listen to operators.
Right.
People that are actually doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then kind of feed off that.
Yeah.
I think if they took that type of feedback, we'd have a better social equity program.
Yeah, no,
and actually follow through with it, not just hear my story.
But move forward with the solutions that you're proposing.
Yeah, do it.
Absolutely.
You know, it's that simple. But that's your difference between the two, for sure. But there's a lot of love, man. There's a lot of at the same time, social equity applicants need to understand this. If you want to do this, you got to do it. It's not going to be pretty. It's not about that hitting the home run and getting paid. It takes time.
Absolutely.
So make a deal first. You got to get something going.
Yeah.
Because if you just sit back and keep talking about it, all you're doing is losing money, because every day someone else gets going. And every day someone else opens up a grow or opens up another store. That's less opportunity for you. And I think that's probably going to be, when it's all said and done, that's the most negative impact that social equity for social equity applicants. There's a lot of them, man. I mean, I'm talking hundreds that haven't started operating. They've made nothing off this license, and they're not, most of them, it's because they were looking to find out how much they could make.
Yeah. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So it's tough.
Yeah.
The city needs to step up and maybe educate, and they're doing that. But
sure,
that was the beginning phase. We'll see what happens in the next 6 months, because I've heard a lot of good things are coming.
Yeah.
So
more and more licenses are rolling out.
Yeah.
Like first we're dropping now, but our social equity license just got approved, and so now I have the manufacturing social equity license in the building, and we also now have the delivery retail license as well.
That's it, man. That's it.
Things are moving, and like you said,
you got to do it. You got to go, bro. You got to grind it out.
Now I'm in those phases of where am I going next? Like, what am I gonna? How am I gonna use this now? And so there's gonna be that coming soon. But share with the people, how can we find you? Where where can we get more of this information?
Listen, I'm right here in Chatsworth or out throughout Southern California. I've the cool thing is I've been able to take something and start with 1,100 square feet, and now I've got thousands of square feet of access to cannabis space, and I'm all throughout Southern California. I'm tapped in with Northern California solid, so I'm all over the place. But you can check me out. You can follow the brand on Instagram. It's Green Label RX. Obviously, my personal Instagram, I am Green Label. You can check that out. What else? We have a Twitter account, Green Label RX. We got the social club. We got the Green Label. For the most part, look for us in Echo Park. So if you pull up to Echo Park in the next 30 to 65 days or 30 to 60 days, look for us right on Echo Park Avenue. And then, look for me to have more of these things out there. I'm gonna try to put a little bit more effort into spreading the word and talking.
Man, I'm just glad that we're one of the first.
Yeah, man. That's what it's all about, bro. Yeah. You were right on it, and I'm blessed to be here. Like I truly I'm thankful for the opportunity to get up here and tell my story, man. So thank you.
It needs to be heard, man, especially as you guys are starting to build up, grind up. Like, people need to know who they're purchasing from and
that's
who to support. And this is the way to do that.
Yeah, man. And that's at the end. My goal is to have a product to the consumer that's on point with what they're wanting, and it's all about that. And obviously, the more people hear about us, the better opportunity I'll have in sharing that, my passion.
Yeah.
And man, come definitely try our flower. We have multiple different products coming out, but we have a good variety of flower that's going to be hitting the shelves here starting February. And then when the store opens up, pull up, man. You're going to see we're going to have different things going on all the time. So that's what I'm excited about. And there's going to be multiple Green Label RX stores here in LA in the next 6 months. So be on the lookout.
Now we're gonna close out with some shout outs. I'm gonna go do my shout outs like every episode. Dalia, my daughter, I love you. Rosie, Faith, I love you, girls. Any shout outs? Any last shout outs?
Oh man, I have to give it up to my wife, holding me down, Kelly. I love you, baby. And then all my partners, bro. I'm blessed. I have my partnerships, and you know who you are. The homies, the people that have been there from the beginning, that never turned on me or never didn't believe in what I was trying to do. I appreciate all that. But most importantly, man, thank you, God.
For sure.
For everything, because I've been through it, and my prayers were answered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that being said, guys, we're out.
Yeah. All right. All right, man. I got people calling. Let me get in over here real quick. But thank you.